This is the Unstuck movement. These are true testimonies of breakthrough. I am your host, Rob Z. Today we have Paul Zolman on the podcast. Paul, I'm really excited to talk to you. Everything about this episode. I love to talk about love, so I think we're going to have an amazing conversation, and it's a subject that I think a lot of people, especially guys, might shy away from. So I'm really excited that we're going to dive into this. Now, you and most people know about the love languages, the 5 love languages, pretty famous. I'm curious, what is unique about what you do and how you use the love languages differently?
Thank you, Rob. That's a great question. I think that the way I use the love languages is the way it should be done. I was single at the time when it came across the love languages, Rob. In the love language book that Dr. Chapman has, he said, tell your significant other what your love language is and expect them to cater to that. And then, so on my side, I saw, well, expectation. I'm expecting them to love me. Well, what if I need love and they're not doing it? And then on their side, it created a duty. So that duty expectation really didn't sound like love to me. And who was I to say what love was? I grew up in a dysfunctional family. There was abuse of every kind, physical abuse, verbal abuse, sexual abuse. There was just a lot of different types of abuses in the family that I grew up with. So who am I to say what love was? But it didn't sound like love to me. So what I thought was I love the principles of the love language as just sending it out. But I realized, Rob, early on that I could not bid someone to love me. I don't have any control over their person, their body, and I didn't want that. But I realized I grew up thinking I did, and I thought that I could control people. I thought I know a better way, and I'd make suggestions and not even ask permission to make suggestions. Says you should do it this way, and just tell them what they should be doing. But it wasn't even my call to do that. I thought that just didn't work. So what I thought was that, well, even as dysfunctional as my family was, we came together as a family playing games. So I thought, well, what if I made this a game, the love languages? So I contacted Dr. Chapman, asked him if he was licensing those little icons that he had for each one of the love languages. And after a couple of weeks, his attorney wrote back and said, no, we're not doing that. So I had an attorney in my neighborhood, Rob, that was a copyright attorney. Yeah. And he said this, he said, theory like the love language theory is not copyrightable, application is. So they weren't doing it as a game, so I decided to make it a game. And what I did with that, instead of trying to figure out and take a survey and find out what everybody's love language is, instead of doing that, what I did is create a dice that has each one of the love languages on it. I'm holding up right now, 2 hands together. This is a Taylor Swift heart that she throws out to the crowd, probably to her loved ones. This one is a little bit different, has a little conversation fly out. So those would be the words from the heart. Next one is a hand holding an hourglass, represents time. Next one looks like a waiter holding a platter, represented service. There's the icon representing gifts, the hand holding the gifts. And then the last one, physical touch, two hands touching one another. 5 love languages, 6 sides on the cube, Rob. The last one is surprise me, as a hand holding a question mark. You'll notice that each one of the icons has a hand. It's as we're giving it away. So that's the whole concept. We're giving it away. We're not, the Dr. Chapman's expectation was that you would say, well, this is the way I want to be loved, so do it. And you get to this whiny part that said, well, I told you how to love me. Why aren't you doing it? And we don't want to ever get to that point at all. So what we're doing is we're giving it away. We roll the dice every day. That's the love language you practice, giving away all day that day. Mm-hmm. That's how it's different. You're giving it away and watching as people light up. When they light up, Rob, you've discovered what their primary or the secondary love language is. There's no guessing game anymore. There's no survey. There's no pausing the relationship. Say, excuse me, could we pause this relationship so I could have you take this survey so I know how to love you? You don't have to do that anymore. It's so awkward anyway. So you roll the dice. Over a 30-day period, you will have rolled the dice every day and given each love language away. By that time, you know all 5 love languages. So now you can give it away. By giving it away, now you can see it when it comes your way. That's different. This, Dr. Chapman's idea was that, well, if you learn your significant other's love language and cater to that, then you're going to be buddies. But what about all the other people? Being single and looking around, says Dr. Chapman, who in the heck am I supposed to love? There's nobody here. I realized, oh, I get to love everybody. It was perfect for me, because the habit that I wanted to change was, instead of focusing on what's wrong with people and what their mistakes were or what the errors were, I wanted to focus on what was right with people. What can I love about that person? They're 2 diabolical directions, one looking one way, one looking the other way. When I found that, after rolling the dice and watching for what's right with people and what I can love about them, that I forgot to be annoyed. I forgot to be annoyed at what other people were doing. I was being annoyed until I had this flash of anger. And I stopped. I forgot to be annoyed. And I started being more loving. It's just totally different. It changed my life.
That's really good. It's like taking the love languages book and putting it into real practical action in every day of your life. Mm-hmm. And so you're saying, if you roll that dice, it's not just towards your significant other, but it's towards everybody that you come in contact with.
Right.
Hopefully you don't land on gifts a lot, or you're going to be spending a lot of money, right? I mean,
well, let's talk about that, Rob, because I really look at gifts as kind of an umbrella of all the other love languages. A gift could be spending time with someone. A gift could be making dinner for someone. A gift could be a note. A gift could be a hug for someone. Any of those would work for a gift. So think outside the box a little bit. It doesn't have to be purchased. In fact, those that are personal are the most cherished gifts.
Yeah, a gift can be a phone call, right? Checking in with somebody. Yeah, I like that. That's really good, man. So, okay, let's just stop for a second. I want to welcome everybody to the Unstuck movement. This platform was created for conversations like this to help you find breakthrough in every area of your life, professional and personal. And when it comes to love, we should be applying that to professional and personal. And I want to talk some about that as we have our episode here today. This podcast is brought to you by the Connected Leaders Academy. Make sure you check out connectedleadersacademy.com. Over 400 heart-centered servant leader entrepreneurs from all over the world who would love to connect with you. I know, because I'm a part of the Connected Leaders Academy myself. And also, just a quick reminder, if you're ready to become the go-to authority in your field, make a lasting impact on people's lives, and take what you know to be true about you and what you do, your value, and turning it into something real and tangible that you can impact people with and build amazing connections with, I urge you to go to robzwentz.com, join the wait list for our exclusive Pro Podcaster Academy. It will change your life, robzwentz.com. Today, Paul Zolman is on the show. He created a life-transforming method from his childhood experience of the opposite of love. His approach shifted his life from anger to compassion, and now he teaches others to do the same. I'm loving this so far, man. So let's go back in the past. Who did you used to be, and who have you become?
It's interesting, Rob, that we're kind of a product of our parents, and my father was probably a product of his parents, and it just passed on from generation. My grandfather had 19 children, lived in Indiana in the United States, and had 9 children with his first wife. That first wife passed away in childbirth of that 9th child. He was so distraught about that, Rob, that he sold everything and in the farm. And when the people came to the auction, he said, "And would you like this child? And would you like this child? And would you like this child?" Systematically gave away all the 9 children except for one. and then moved to Montana. Took that one child, Benjamin, with him to Montana. Found a lady that had never been married, a school teacher, married her, had 10 more children, of which my father's number 6 out of that. So that number 15 is my father, 19 children for that generation. My father toned it down. He only had 11. Only, and I'm number 10 of 11.
Uh-oh. It's like we've got a freeze in the feed here. This is never good. Amazing. 19 kids. 9 from one marriage, 10 from another. I hope we didn't lose Paul, as it seems like he's gone. But I can't even begin to imagine what that is like. I can't even begin to imagine caring for all those different kids and all the different relationships you would have to juggle, all the different situations you'd have to deal with. I really hope we get Paul back here. This is a first for the podcast. This is the first we've had a full freeze like this, and I don't believe it's my internet feed. I believe it's got something to do with Paul's. But as I'm just gonna freestyle as he's okay. So he's dropped off. He'll come back on. Don't worry, we'll get him back. And while we're talking about this, I can't imagine getting lost in the shuffle of having 10 other brothers and sisters, and just the impact that would have on you. I'm sure there's tons of other impacts positively that it could have on your life. I'm sure the other impacts could be really beneficial. It looks like we got him back. Paul, you there?
Yeah, sorry about that. My computer just decided to restart it right at that time. I apologize for that.
That's what
so I was talking
do.
about me being number 10 of 11 children, of my father toning it down, and then I only had 8 children. My children are only having 3 children. I don't get it, Rob. I want more grandchildren. Now I understand why my grandfather had so many children. But anyway, we learn what we learned from our parents, and as whatever my father learned, he learned before 8th grade. He graduated from 8th grade, and that's as far as he went with his education. But I think education is really a key to change. That's the catalyst. And as I've learned more about the love languages, wanting to implement that into my life was something that I wanted to change. I didn't want to be that person that had no boundaries, that would look over my shoulder, so to speak, at another person's paper and say, you made that wrong, try it this way. And I didn't want to be that person that was always forever looking and being critical and trying to correct other people's problems. It's exhausting. It's absolutely exhausting. And there's a lot of people out there that are doing that right now, realizing that that's not what they should be doing. Focus on who you are. Focus on what you're going to do. And that's really what Five Love Languages did for me. I wanted to be that person that was sending out love in all those different ways and had the flexibility to be able to send it out in all those different ways. I became what I like to call, Rob, a love language linguist. It's a sexy title. I know you want that. With that smile on your face, you do want that. Put it on your resume. What's that?
I said it's fun to say, love language linguist. That's good.
Oh, it is. That's a good one for the radio. A love language linguist. But when you put it on your resume, you're going to go to the employer, and the employer's going to say, "What the heck is a love language linguist?" And you're going to say, "It's just someone that loves everybody." That employer wants their customers' love, and they want a loving environment within the workplace. Hopefully, your resume would rise to the top just because of those two things, that you are a kind and loving individual, rather than someone that's going to be a rabble-rouser, someone that's going to just question authority, that's going to just cause problems within the business. They want someone loving in that business.
Absolutely, man. I'm curious, going back to your childhood, 11 kids. Your dad was one of 10 of technically 19, but one of 10 at that time in his life. And was there any sort of examples of the love that you practice now from those situations, or was that were those childhood memories kind of devoid of the love that you have now in your life?
Rob, that's a great question. There are times, and I had to really dig deep, because I think when you go through an abusive situation like that, you focus a lot. You focus your attention on what a horrible thing that happened. I remember situations that I was spanked so severely that I had bruises on my rear end for more than 3 weeks. And that's how abusive it was. And just you remember those things, and almost that pain that you feel almost outshines anything else good that was going on. But there were some good things along the way. I know that playing the games was a good thing. My father would laugh and my mother would laugh. We'd laugh together, and it was a fun time together. It wasn't pointed at any individual to be demeaning to any particular person, especially myself. And there were other times, I remember I had a hernia operation and I was very young, 5 years old. And my father, I remember distinctly my father carried me out of the hospital. I remember my father dating my mother every single Friday. I can't keep up that pace myself, Rob. And just anybody trying to keep up a pace of consistently doing that is really, it's daunting. It's absolutely a daunting task to try to keep up with that. But he did it. He wasn't very creative about it. It was always the Maverick Bar. It was always over alcohol. And my father was a truck driver, so he was gone during the week. That was the first place he met my mother. We never saw him until after the fact. And I can imagine, I was never there, but I can imagine my mother starting out at the oldest and saying, "This is what Tom did. This is what Dave did. This is what all the kids did," down until they got to number 10. My father's getting annoyed, and he's ready to have that flash of anger right at number 10. And I felt targeted in a lot of ways because of that, just because he'd be annoyed at what had happened throughout the week. The worst part about that is because of the value he had for women, I happened to be placed between an older sister and a younger sister, sandwiched right between them, and all the rest are boys. So all the boys are doing all this garbage stuff. He values the girls, and then there's me right between. And if I look cross-eyed at the girls, I was in trouble. If I made them cry, I was definitely in trouble. And it's just all these other factors that I was the scapegoat. Everything seemed to be piled on me. And maybe I'm playing the victim right now. I don't think I am, but that was my perception at the time.
No, I don't hear that. I hear perspective, man. That was your perspective on things that happened to you. So the reason I asked that question was because so many people go through their life, they don't get encouragement, they don't get the love that they need, and they end up doing the same thing as was done to them, and that just carries on for generations. You broke those chains, you broke those generational curses, whatever words you want to use. You broke that pattern in your lineage. I want to know the catalyst for what broke that. Was there something that happened that you realized, oh, I can't be this critiquing person that I've always been. I need to be this loving person that I know is possible for me. And I'm curious, like, was there a moment in time? What caused that to finally, I know it probably led up to a moment, but the straw that broke the camel's back. And I want to talk about that in 60 seconds as soon as we get back.
Are you struggling to make consistent, valuable content for yourself? Do you want to have an efficient and effective attracts the people that you want to connect with in life, the people you want to build relationships to authority at what you do, at what you're great at? Would it be helpful for you if you had a platform that connects you to incredible people in your industry? The kind of clients that or blow up anybody's inbox, whether you're something that's been kind of burning inside of you. I encourage you to check out the Pro Podcaster Academy. Get started right now. Join the waitlist at robzwentz.com.
Hi, my name is Jose Escobar, and I'm the founder and CEO of the Connected Leaders Academy, a community of entrepreneurs all over the world globally. If you're an entrepreneur and you're looking to grow personally and professionally, scale your influence, move the needle in your business, more, and of course, grow your circle and your network like never before, join the Connected Leaders Academy, Instagram, and on Facebook, the @ JASCO25. We look forward.
So, Paul, tell me, man, was there a breakthrough moment, something that you realized I can't be like this? This has to change.
There was, Rob. So the breakthrough moment for me, there are a few glimmers of a breakthrough moment. First grade, when I went to first grade, I didn't go to kindergarten, but I went to first grade. I knew that teacher loved me. She absolutely loved me. And for some reason, I still remember her name. Probably it is that reason of love. Her name is Mrs. Rogers. I don't remember second, third, fourth, or fifth, but I do remember sixth grade. There's something in a teacher that will remind you of what love is. And that loving teacher, that teacher in first grade was a totally different atmosphere than was at home. That was one glimmer of hope there. But the one that really struck me and really what helped me with the paradigm shift was, as I mentioned, I was single when I created the dice. Right in that time frame, I'm dating and I'm doing destination dating, and my sister finds out about this, and after a year and a half of destination dating and finding nothing, she says, "Well, I have a neighbor that kind of has a disposition like yours, and you might want to date her." So I started corresponding with this email. She didn't want any phone calls at the time, but corresponding in email. And so I get brave after 4 or 5 emails. I get brave and I said, well, how many times have you been married? And she says, counting the 5 that are buried in the backyard. And it was just hilarious. I said, oh, I've got a live one here. This is something to pursue. So I decided to move up to where my sister was. I was living 7 hours away. I decided to move up to where my sister was and just investigate this a little bit more. We dated quite a bit, and comes to the time that it's now time for Big Brother approval. So number 10 of 11, I always have to have Big Brother approval. So I went up to my brother's house 300 miles away. And the first thing that happened when I went to his house is my sister-in-law pulls her aside and says, the only emotion that the Zolman family learned growing up was anger. At first I did not. I said, then it made me mad. I thought, I just verified exactly what she says. And from that moment, I realized that I've got to change this. And that's when I started reading the color code and the 5 love languages, needing that change. I've got to move away from being critical, from being on that angry side of the spectrum to being on the loving side of the spectrum. And I realized that to move there, I had to name each attitude or each action that I was taking, had to name it, and then find out, is that on the angry side of the spectrum or is it on the loving side of the spectrum? Take, for example, Rob, the word sarcasm. Angry side or the loving side? What do you think?
On the angry side.
It is on the angry side. So what's the opposite? What would be the opposite of sarcasm?
Appreciation, maybe? I don't know. What is the opposite of sarcasm?
Sarcasm is kind of an angry
like
joke.
Teasing? Yeah, joke, right.
It's an angry joke, or it's teasing. So something that's not a joke would be genuine. Something that's not angry would be something that's authentic, or somebody that's true blue. So you put authentic, true blue, and sarcasm, and authentic. Put that all on a table. Which trait are you going to choose to pick? So as I began to refine my life in that way, and being able to name it, if you can name it, you can tame it. So I thought, if I don't want sarcasm, what do I want? And I'd just be able to put it to that point, that focus on acquiring the trait of being authentic, focus on acquiring the trait of being genuine. That is what kind of turned the tide there. If I'm finding I've got an angry attitude about one thing or another, and it's not really named anger, but it's named sarcasm, or it's named impatience, or it's named just anything that is lacking in love. If I could figure out what the opposite was, then all of a sudden I had a goal. I had something that I could look forward to, something that I could move forward to, and then I had a path. But one thing about the whole thing is that rolling the dice, I'm looking for opportunities to love. I'm looking, how can I appropriately express love in that way to all men? It's not just that significant other, just it opens it up to everybody. This is the person I want to be. This is a character trait I want to have.
I love that, man. I was writing that down after you said it. If you can name it, you can tame it. And that's one of the situations, we'll find ourselves in, is like, if you can't identify and articulate what you're feeling, it's really hard to do something about it, because you don't know what it is. You don't know how you got there. You don't know why you got there, and you don't know how to change it. So I think that's really good. And, I'm glad you're kind of shifting gears here in this conversation, because I wanted to talk about this. Like, this isn't just for your spouse or the people who are living in your household with you. This is for everybody in your life. It could be people you work with. It could be anybody. So how do you take these love languages and apply them to other people in your life, people you might not even know, or you don't really have much of a relationship with, or somebody maybe you can't even stand, right, who might be in your work or whatever that might be? How did you effectively apply these throughout your life, and then how did that change you?
Great questions, Rob. I think let me answer the last one first. How it changed me is I began focusing on, there is something good about that person. I'm going to find out what it is. Instead of the focus of saying that person is bad, and I'm going to talk about how bad that person is, and I'm going to tell everybody else how bad that person is, and convince them how bad that person is. Instead of focusing on that, what good is that going to do? I felt it was like a boomerang, that if I'm going to send criticism out, guess where? It's coming right back to me. I did not want that. And so in a yoga class, Rob, at the end of the class, the teacher puts their hands together and says, Namaste. It doesn't mean, hey, all class is over, let's go. It doesn't mean that. Namaste actually is from a Sanskrit dialect up in northern India. That Sanskrit dialect, we get nirvana from there, we get karma from there. Those are nice words that we get from that Sanskrit dialect. But Namaste means the God in me sees the God in you. And that's the Hindu interpretation of that. So looking for what's divine in that other person, looking for what's right about that other person, is really something that we should be doing all along. When I got in the habit of doing that, I really didn't have any inclination to be critical. Everybody has problems. And if I send love out, I'm going to get love back. If I improve my sending out of love, it's going to improve my chances of getting love back. It's not that transition that transaction that we're looking for, Rob. We're sending it out without any expectation, but abiding by the laws of the harvest, abiding by karma, or by the law of attraction. All those laws were created before you and I were ever born. Whatever you send out, it's going to come right back to you. So just abiding by those laws, don't expect it to come back, but trust that it's going to, somehow, some way, someday. And when that does, you'll know that it's because of you planted the seed out there. Same happens with criticism, though, and I realized that I should have expected that I was going to be criticized for criticizing all those other people as that old me, that old Paul Zolman.
Yeah, really good points, man. I really enjoyed that. It's interesting. Planting seeds is the best thing that we can do. And you might not see the fruit of the seed come back to you right away, or it might not even come back the way that you expected, right? But if we live our lives like, okay, so I'm going to be planting these seeds. This is how I'm going to decide to live every day, which we go back to the start of this episode. You roll the dice, it lands on a love language, and you decide, here's what I'm going to do today. Here's how I'm going to live out today. That is so powerful. How do you keep it top of mind for yourself? Right, it's so easy as we go throughout the day to be triggered in such quick. Man, it can happen in a flash of a second, and you're gone. You're not even in that frame of mind anymore. So how do you stay present and aware that you need to be in that loving sort of way? Because I think that's one of the biggest things that we struggle with.
Good question, Rob. A couple things that I do is I try to focus and try to refocus every hour or so. What did I roll earlier today? What's the purpose of today? And what is the mantra for today? And I just remind myself every hour, what is that? Second thing I do is I keep a dice in my pocket, or you could keep it in your purse or whatever. Just keep one with you, because it's small enough that it's just 1 inch by 1 inch, so it's small enough it fit in just anywhere. I keep it in my pocket, and I just keep. If I forget to roll in the morning, and I'm thinking, what did I roll today, or forgot, just I have the opportunity to roll it again and start again. It's like the movie set. Take two. Here we go. Let's do this again.
We go. If the first one didn't go right, let's do it again. Let's make it happen. I think that's really good, man. And it's very practical also for our lives. It's very practical for our daily lives, because we need to have these reminders on a daily basis. This is where I have another opportunity to do things differently. And I think we all could, especially when it comes to ourselves, show ourselves more grace and show ourselves that, hey, just because you did that wrong right there, right now, this second right now is another chance to do it differently. When this comes to you and your own personal relationship with you, is that the hardest one to manage, or are there the outside relationships in your life the harder ones to manage?
It's a good question, Rob. I don't think any podcaster's ever asked me that in all the 200 podcasts I've done. It's really a great question. So as far as me, I don't worry about me. And I think that's counterintuitive, what people think, that they got to take care of me. And it comes to the point that it almost becomes an indulgent factor rather than trying to take care of yourself. That, well, I want to take care of me, so I'm buying myself a new car. I want to take care of me, so I'm buying a new wardrobe. I want to take care of me, so I'm just doing for me. It's not. This doesn't work that way. The way you take care of me in this situation is that if you light somebody up, you help them have a better day, there's great satisfaction right then, right there. It's almost like if you're paid on the spot for helping someone have a better day. You get that great feeling, you want to do it again, and it keeps you motivated in that way. Keeps you motivated. It helps you be that person that you really want to be. Now, over here, I've got this box of all the abuse and all the garbage that I grew up with. I wanted to get out of the box. And as soon as I started rolling the dice and trying to stay out of the box, I almost felt like I had imposter syndrome, that I didn't belong outside there. I didn't belong in the loving lane. I belong back in the critical box. And you'll until you get into that habit of sending out love all day long, you're going to feel like you belong back in that box. Mm-hmm. But you've got to keep pressing forward. There is that learning curve. There is that time frame. Like I said, it only took 30 days for me because I wanted to change. I wanted that change in my life. You can't have a family intervention and force someone to do this. It's not going to happen. This doesn't work that way. They have to want that change, and they have to want to be able to see people differently. If you've got that desire, then you can make that change. So for me, I get self-satisfaction out of helping somebody have a better day. And it really, it's like giving love away is almost an addiction anymore. It just is something that empowers me. It gives me that adrenaline. It gives me everything that I need for my own life.
Oh man, I love that, because that's whenever we're on the other end of that and we're being sarcastic or difficult towards somebody, we can get juice out of that too. So you can get juice out of being rotten to somebody, right? So but you get more juice out of being really good to them. And it seems like in our society, we tend to, at least online, get more juice out of tearing somebody down than building somebody up. So the fact that that's how you decided to switch things around, and you notice that there's a tangible shot that you get from doing that lights you up every day. I love that. It's so good. It's such a simple thing to do, but it's such a powerful and profound thing to do that can change people's lives. So I just want to thank you, Paul, for being who you are, doing what you do. I want people to find out more about you and get involved in what you're doing. So if you want to get 10% off working with Paul right now, if you put my name, Rob Z, in the comments when you go to Roll of Love, that's ROLE, rolloflove.com/pages/contact. Go to his website, click on the contact button, put 10% off in the comments, and you're going to save with Paul right now and have him make your life more loving and show up differently for people in your personal life close to you, but also anybody that you come in contact with. I love that that's your message. So as we wrap this thing up, Paul, is there anything you want to leave the audience with?
Classic, but I just love this line that says, love in the heart wasn't put there to stay. Love isn't love till it's given away. So it talks all about what I'm talking about. We have to really give this love away and consciously give the love away if we want love to come our way. If you want to change your love life, change how you send love out.
Yeah, you can't keep it for yourself. It's not doing any good. Give it out. And when you have it, you can't help but give it out. You can't help but throw it out there into the world. So thank you, sir. I hope this helps people, give them a breakthrough today in the lovingness in their life. This is another true testimony of breakthrough. Until next time, this has been the Unstuck Move.